When it comes to online commentary, people express a lot of passion. But what about in the real world? In BAMM.TV's comment box, we hit both the net and the streets to find the most controversial comments from the world of music and fire back some of our own. I'm Ian McPherson from BAMM.TV, and I'm here every episode to pick out the best opinions and provoke the juiciest debate. And on today's show, we got our special guest, Christopher Davies, regular as well by now, but you know, he's so good we had to ask for him to come back. He's the editorial director for BAMM.TV, and he writes music related articles on the BAMM blog. That's our online blog. How you doing, Chris?
Not too bad. How are you?
Great. Good to speak to you again and see you again.
Back again.
In the studios.
You can't keep me down.
Today's topic, what is it? Well, it's a story we found in the Guardian website by Holly Baxter. And basically what we're looking at is why celebrity crowdfunding has such little appeal. We found this story in 2013, right at the end of the year, by a British musician called Dev Hynes. He's known as the Blood Orange. Anyway, basically, he lost everything in a fire in his apartment in New York. I mean, he lost totally everything. Recordings, computers, clothing, property, and a lot of, financial things, and, videos and hardware, I suppose. And obviously, there's the sentimental stuff, pictures and photographs, and especially his creative value. And this tragic story touched a lot of people, and his girlfriend's mother took it upon herself and stepped in setting up a crowdfunding account. This is a story of a minor celebrity using crowdfunding to get back on his feet. That's good. But there is a trend of bigger celebrities using crowdfunding for their own means. Now, this raises a question. Are celebrities hijacking crowdfunding and taking a possible funding away from ordinary people like you and me? And we're going to explore that today. So Holly actually believes that celebrity crowdfunding is becoming a lot wider and is becoming a trend. But crowdfunding is a philosophy. It's good, it's democratic, and speaks common sense as well. It makes it very simple for the supporters of creatives and individuals to fund future projects. And I would say it also allows unknown artists and designers, inventors and developers and consumers to work in direct relationship and eliminate many middlemen. It's worked so well, in fact, that celebrities have taken to the model for their creative work, including Zach Braff. There's been loads of backlash to the celebrities, not only using crowdfunding, but taking away the potential backing from other projects. Some might consider more in need of this type of funding. It's kind of a bittersweet story with this crowdfunding in terms of, well, it does help out a lot of people, but is it helping out the right people? So let's move on to the comments and see what some of the people online think about this story. The first comment from a person called Morningstar 1972. The real story here is what is going on in the heads of people who send money. Why do they do it? What's their motivation? Years go on in the States, and some kind of test was done to involve two examples of a plight. One regular guy who lost his business and home and ended up on the streets. The other was a violent multiple murderer who needed funds for his desperate attempt to appeal his sentence. The examples both were given similar fundraising efforts. The long story short, people thought that the regular guy was just moaning and a deadbeat and wondered what it was that made him think himself so special. he got sweet FA. The murderer, on the other hand, fared very well due to many assumptions about how tragic his circumstance must be. When people wish to buy themselves a stairway to heaven, they go all out for the cause. And that's what wins most of the brownie points. That's a comment from Morningstar 1972. What do you think?
It's human nature. You could argue to always side with the most emotionally manipulative or the best narrative. You know, it always has been, it always will. So I don't think we should judge a system of fundraising for artists. Well, I don't think we should judge a system of fundraising for artists based on that human nature and those personality foibles. And B, that comment really has nothing to do with the issue of celebrity crowdfunding, really. He's sort of used it to he's used that issue as a starting point to go off on his own agenda.
You know, the way I see it is kind of, there's no logical reason for people to give money to the murderer than belief, which I think plays a powerful role in a lot of these crowdfunding stories. They believe based on the story, and it's because they believe in the story, the public, they get taken on this emotional ride. And I think the best emotional ride wins, you know, the funding. I mean, let's look at some of the facts, some examples of celebrity kind of crowdfunding. I mean, let's go back to Zach Braff. I mean, he raised $3 million for the Garden State sequel. You know, that's a movie where he's created. And I can understand him getting money in that kind of sense because, you know, he's trying to achieve a creative dream and people know his track record and they maybe want to see the outcome. I can see that working in terms of celebrity crowdfunding. And then you have people like Spike Lee, you know, and Spike Lee got a bit of backlash for actually going via Kickstarter to actually make his new films. But he said nothing's really changed because it's just a new model, it's a new way. People used to cold call, it's the same thing, but now it's a different way of going about it. And I mean, he raised 1.4 million for his films. I mean, he never had money at any point. All these films, he had to kind of, you know, go and fundraise and crowdsource to get that cash. So, I mean, you can check out some of the facts online. I mean, it's a tool and it does work for celebrities.
I guess the main issue they have is that people like Holly Baxter in our article, their main issue is that, you know, that it's celebrity crowdfunding is taking money or chances away from people who don't have this status. It's almost like they view crowdfunding as something for the little guy, and now the big guys are moving in and sort of taking advantage of it for themselves. And it's not just, you know, we keep saying Kickstarter, but let's not forget, you know, there are more than there are more than 100, I think, of these sort of online platforms.
Let's move on and let's look at this other comment, what we got from Richard Weldberg. And what Richard has said is basically, there's absolutely no need for you or anyone else to moralize about the validity of any crowdfunding proposal. When you can do is, you know, you can do all the talking with your wallet. If a proposal isn't of any value to people, it won't get funded. Simple as that. It's one of the cleanest markets imaginable. And yeah, that's what I think as well, kind of, to a certain degree. What do you think?
To a certain degree, yeah. It's a clean market, and, you know, Zach Braff wanted to make a sequel to Garden State. I don't really think the world needs that, but a lot of people agree with him, and, you know, they pitched in their money. But it's, when we've discussed on previous episodes, there's often a big difference between financing and the market, and, you know, art, creating art. You know, a clean market, and maybe again this is perhaps straying off topic, but a clean market isn't always conducive to creating the best art. So let's say more people have read, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey than they have read Ulysses or Gravity's Rainbow or Infinite Jest, like all of which are really non-commercial books. But I'd argue that those books are far more artistically important than 50 Shades of Grey. Now, there's probably a case where, a more artistically important or meaningful Kickstarter project would probably earn less than, something trivial or silly. Which, putting it back towards the issue, might be where celebrity crowdfunding is a good thing, because with the celebrity's name behind it, a non-commercial idea could suddenly become a viable prospect. Something that wouldn't get funding from a studio or a network for being too anti-commercial or too weird or too off the wall. When a celebrity goes directly to the public, they speak with their wallets. So I mean, there are arguments for opening the market like that and arguments against. I think, but again, I think it's a lot of this is just resentment that celebrities have an easier way into that market.
It's a contradiction, because in terms of the word, like for instance, Kickstarter. I know it's not the be all and end all of crowdfunding, but Kickstarter kind of gives you the idea you're going to kickstart something new for someone fresh, help out kind of thing. And it kind of doesn't gel well with, I suppose, that celebrity status.
I could go on a crowdfunding site with my idea for a film about clouds, and I probably won't get much action on there. Now, Spike Jonze, who just won the Oscar for his film, could go on there with his project about clouds and get lots and lots of money. Now, we could argue, as I think this article seems to be, that that's unfair because Spike Jonze is a celebrity and I'm not. Spike Jonze is bigger, and so it's easier for him to get this funding. But then again, that's almost counterproductive. That's like saying, if you're hiring someone from a job, you look at their resume. Spike Jonze has a better resume than I do in that sense. Yeah, so is it celebrity or is it achievement? I think it's this definition of celebrity that's really, like, especially in an online world, is really tough to pin down.
Yeah, definitely. This is a story of a minor celebrity using crowdfunding to get back on his feet. Good, but there is a trend of bigger celebrities using crowdfunding for their own means. Now, this raises a question. Are celebrities hijacking crowdfunding and taking possible funding away from ordinary people like you and me? So here I am in Notting Hill Gate, Portobello Road to be quite precise, and I'm with
Dan Price.
Nice to meet you, Dan. And I just want to ask you a quick question about celebrity crowdfunding. I mean, should celebrity crowdfunding be, the campaign, should they be restricted only for non-celebrities, or do you think, it should be open to everybody?
Well, a double-sided answer. Basically, at first, no. I think it's only fair that less fortunate or up-and-coming people should get crowdfunding for obvious reasons. Like, celebrities have money themselves, why should they be asking the public for more money? On the contrary, if you just allowed it for everyone, so say if a celebrity did have a crowdfunding campaign, then it would be up to the public to decide whether they deserve the money or not. So I suppose ultimately that is the fairest way, because everyone will have their own choice on whether they should get the money or not some person who decides or makes a policy.
So what do you think? Do you think do you think the story, the story has a big influence on it? where it's going to, like, or what the cause is?
Oh, of course, yeah. I suppose if the celebrity was using their status to endorse a good cause, such as a charity, or even say if they wanted to make a movie that they couldn't get funding for, but the public thought it was a good idea, then yeah, I think it really does matter. As opposed to if they want to sell their Bentley and get a Lamborghini, that's really, that's a bit shit. You shouldn't have crowdfunding for that.
All right, cheers. Yeah. All right, thanks for your help.
I'm not sorry.
Cheers. That was perfect. And I'm with
Julia.
Julia, lovely to meet you, Julia, and thank you for speaking to me as well. And I just wanted to find out, what do you think about celebrity crowdfunding? Do you think it should be restricted for people who are in kind of a less off position, like an up and coming artist or someone who's less famous?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit controversial that celebrities are now abusing their standing by using a method that really should be reserved to independent and smaller artists.
Thank you very much. What do you think? That's good enough for me. Thank you very much. And I'm with
Perry.
Perry, lovely to meet you, Perry. Thank you for stopping and talking to me. I'm Ian McPherson. And I just want to ask you a simple question. I mean, you're familiar with crowdfunding?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay, great stuff. I mean, well, there's a story what came out in The Guardian, and basically what we're focusing on here is basically, should celebrity crowdfunding campaigns be restricted, to people who are kind of from a less, privileged or less kind of, famous background, someone who's a bit smaller?
I think it should be restricted. I think if you're of a celebrity status, you've got to the point where you've kind of made it, you've got the funding, you've got the background. Leave it for people that are trying to get there. It's a hard enough industry to get into, and if you need the support, then it should be there and it should be viable for you if you're from somewhere where you're not as famous or you're unknown. It should be available for people like that. If you're starting from nothing and you're trying to build yourself, like, crowdfunding is a great way for you to do it, because if someone takes like a couple of seconds to believe in you and give you some funding that way, then it's a way to build yourself up. But if you're at the point where you've already built and you've already got a fan base and you've already got some kind of success, you should be able to do it by yourself, and people will be able to give you some kind of backup without relying on like donations or public funding.
What's wrong with helping a person achieve their dreams, or if they're even down in their luck, and feeling good about it? I mean, it's the days of pitching to commercially based companies that strip your creative control are done, and public source funding is the way forward for an individual from all walks of life. So, I think good on him.
Yeah, I mean, I do think good on him for this, but then am I being hypocritical when I think that larger celebs perhaps shouldn't be using crowdfunding? And that's why, in terms of wanting to give, a final thought to wrap things up, then you probably have to speak to me in like 10 to 15 years' time when I do it, because, crowdfunding of this kind is a relatively new phenomenon of this, online interface. And I think, time will tell. We've still got to determine what the cultural effect will be. Could be good, could not be. My gut feeling is that celebrities sort of adopting a method intended for the little guy will get a pretty big degree of resentment from people. However, it's that term, celebrity. How do we define it? This guy, Blood Orange, whose fan base gathered around to help him back on his feet, I wouldn't deem a massive celebrity. So it's where that definition lies, I don't know. So I'm going to be a cop-out and go, I don't know.
You're not drawing the line, basically. All right, Chris, thanks for coming on the show once again. Remember to share your views on Twitter at BAMM.TV, #CommentBox, or on our Facebook page. Join us next time on Comment Box. Remember, don't keep your opinions to yourself.